Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack the absolutely fascinating psychology behind our financial choices. And spoiler alert, we're going to prove that having emotions about money doesn't actually make you irrational. It just makes you, well, normal.
Okay, let's just dive right into this with a really simple thought experiment from the source text. Picture this. It's Valentine's Day. Do you give your beloved a beautiful, fresh red rose or a crisp $10 bill? Now, standard economic theory dictates that a perfectly rational person would choose the $10, right? Purely for its practical utility. I mean, you can save it, you can spend it, you can invest it. But a normal person knows that handing your partner a $10 bill on Valentine's Day is literally a terrible idea. The rose might wilt in a week, sure, but it expresses a sentiment that cold, hard cash simply cannot.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we'll be exploring today. Here's our roadmap to understanding why we buy and invest the way we do. We're going to cover beyond the rational investor, the three kinds of benefits, blink versus think, cognitive shortcuts and errors, and finally, becoming a knowledgeable investor.
So, starting with Section 1, Beyond the Rational Investor, Redefining Normal. Let's see how this builds a completely new way of looking at ourselves.
This entire explainer is grounded in Meir Statman's brilliant work, Finance for Normal People. And what's so cool about it is that it flips traditional Wall Street wisdom completely on its head. Standard finance usually just ignores all our messy human quirks. But Statman, he actually embraces them, arguing that we don't go out of our way to be ignorant, we're just normal.
Now, standard finance treats us like we're these rational robots who only care about getting rich, assuming our brains perfectly process every piece of information like a supercomputer. Behavioral finance, on the other hand, understands that we are normal humans with normal emotional wants, and because of that, we are absolutely susceptible to cognitive errors.
So if we aren't just calculating supercomputers, what is it that we actually want from our money? That brings us to Section 2, three kinds of benefits and what we actually want.
Normal people actually look for three distinct things in every financial choice they make. First, their utilitarian benefits. That's the stuff that fills our pocketbooks, like the pure profit from an investment. Pretty straightforward. But second, they're expressive benefits. These broadcast our values and our status to everyone else. Think about buying an eco-friendly car to show you care about the environment, or, a luxury watch to display status. And third, we have emotional benefits. This is how a choice makes you feel inside, like the pride of homeownership or the peace of mind you get from financial security.
To really understand how we chase these three benefits, we need to look under the hood at the mechanics of the brain. So, Section 3, blink versus think, and how our brains process choices.
Basically, our minds operate on two systems. System 1 is your intuitive, effortless blink reaction. It's fast, it's automatic, and honestly, it usually serves us really well in daily life. System 2, though, is your slower, controlled, and reflective think reaction. The catch? When making financial decisions, jumping entirely on that fast System 1 can get us into a lot of trouble.
Let's actually test your brain in real time with a classic puzzle from the text to see these systems in action. Ready? If it takes 5 machines, 5 minutes to make 5 widgets, how long does it take 100 machines to make 100 widgets?
Did your brain just scream 100 minutes? Because your intuitive System 1 instantly yells 100. But if you pause and deliberately force your System 2 to think about it, you realize the correct answer is actually 5 minutes. Think about it. Every single machine takes 5 minutes to make a widget. So if you have 100 machines all working at the exact same time, it still just takes 5 minutes.
When we fail to engage that slower System 2 thinking, we end up relying on shortcuts. And those shortcuts often mutate into some very common cognitive money traps. Let's look at Section 4, cognitive shortcuts and errors, and where we mess up.
The crucial point about our first trap, framing errors, is perfectly captured by a famous story about the actor Dustin Hoffman. So years ago, Gene Hackman went over to a young Dustin Hoffman's apartment and found him asking for a loan to buy food. Hackman looked around and actually noticed a row of jars in Hoffman's kitchen totally filled with cash, labeled for rent and entertainment. When Hackman asked why he didn't just use that cash, Hoffman famously replied, "I cannot take money for food from the other jars." This is mental accounting in a nutshell. It proves how we irrationally bucket our money, completely ignoring the basic fact that a dollar is just a dollar.
Another framing error happens when we forget who we're actually competing against in the market. It's kind of like that old joke about the two guys running from a lion. One guy stops to lace up his running shoes. The other one says, "Are you crazy? You can't outrun a lion." But the first guy replies,
I don't need to outrun the lion, man. I just need to outrun you. In the financial market, you don't need to outsmart the entire global economy. You just need to outrun the other, slower traders on the other side of your transaction.
We also suffer massively from confirmation bias. When making market predictions, we tend to heavily weight our positive hits, the times we got it right, and we completely ignore our false positives or false negatives. We purposely seek out information that confirms what we already believe. And that right there is exactly what keeps us believing in bad trading strategies long after they've actually failed to produce any results.
All right, let's try a quick 5-second math estimation to demonstrate the anchoring error. I want you to quickly guess the product of 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6 times 7 times 8. Quick, you only have 5 seconds, just guess a number.
Okay, time's up. Because of our fast system 1, the average person anchors to the small early numbers, the 1, the 2, the 6, the 24, and usually guesses somewhere around 512. But in doing so, we completely miss the massive reality, which is 40,320. And listen, this is exactly how we misjudge compounding market returns. We anchor to a small early data point, and we just fail to adjust our estimates upward enough to match reality.
Another huge trap is the hindsight error. Today, we love to fool ourselves into thinking we just knew Apple stock would explode back in 2003. We tell ourselves it was so obvious. But if you actually go back and look at investor message boards from that exact time, people were calling the company a mess. They were saying Steve Jobs is totally out of touch. In reality, we only see the obvious path once it's already in the rearview mirror, but we confidently trick ourselves into thinking we had this amazing foresight all along.
So now that we know where our brains tend to short circuit, how do we actually fix it? That leads us to our final section, becoming a knowledgeable investor, and the call to action.
We move from being normal ignorant to normal knowledgeable by taking 3 very distinct steps. First, we have to accept our emotional wants. Listen, it is entirely fine to want status or to express your values through your investments. That's human. Second, we need to recognize when our fast system 1 is taking over our decision-making. And third, we have to deliberately slow down to engage our analytical system 2 so we don't fall for things like anchoring, hindsight bias, or mental accounting.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, absolutely crucial question to ponder about your own wallet. The next time you make a big money move, are your financial choices being guided by a blink or a think?